Yeah.
I guess, yeah, just going back to the earlier point I was talking about, why I thought that this was an opportunity for Lawrence Wong to pat himself on his back also, right? Because I think, for me, my perception is that internationally, at least the perception internationally, is that Singapore did pretty well, right, in the COVID-19 management response and everything. And if anything, if you recall, like, really, Lawrence Wong was not DPM Lawrence Wong, leader of the 4G, at the start of the COVID pandemic, right? And it was really through his communication skills and everything on the MMTF and all that really propelled him to the forefront, I think, in people's minds about who could be the next leader. So if you think about that, right, like it's like anybody, it's like when you watch those videos of, like, I don't know, old school legends like Eric Cantona reflects on his time at Manchester United or reacts to his old goals or whatever he did, that kind of thing. In spite of whatever you think about the person, you just when they look back at things you've done and all, there's a chance to almost you can lionize yourself, right? You can sort of talk about what struggles I went through to overcome this, so yeah, that's why I thought, that's what's going to happen here. It's just a chance for him to lionize himself. But actually, like I mentioned, and you went through all the different things that they said they did that we didn't do so well. So that there was actually a lot of things that they actually listed that we didn't do well, even more so than I could have, like, come up with myself. And that's where I was quite surprised by everything. But for you, of all the points that they said Singapore did well and all, like, what stood out to you?
I think, like certain things, when I read what they did well, I completely agree also, like the vaccination, like we on different times, on different episodes, we both said that, oh shit, we went to get vaccinated and the process was really damn smooth, and it felt, wow, we are in this together. You go there, you see people of all races, shapes, sizes, all just working together, a lot of volunteers. So yeah, and like about the places staying open, the general, I would say, community spirit. I do recall that. I do recall, like, oh shit, we're all in this together, and there was that sort of feeling. The things that could have done better, the outbreak in migrant worker dormitories, I'm glad that was, like, number one. The thing about the contact tracing, like, I didn't know that the adoption of Trace Together was actually considered slow. I thought it was fucking fast. Yeah, and the thing about acknowledging that there was that setback, of course, that one, it just was like 1 or 2 paragraphs, and I know that will be debated in Parliament for sure.
For sure.
I mean, I was going to say for show, like when you spell it like SHO for slang, but then I realized, like, oh fuck, it sounds like for a theatrical show. No, for sure. Everything else felt like, oh, okay, like I've heard this being discussed before. But what about you?
I think the one that really stood out to me, where the fact that they even admitted that was a mistake, was about the mask wearing, where essentially they said that they should not have been so definitive in whether masks were required and all that . And you could understand, if you bring yourself back to those early days of COVID, there was a lot of confusion about whether mask wearing was effective, right? And I think there was also a mask shortage going on at that point in time. So maybe in trying to manage the supply and manage demand and all, they almost like made a very definitive statement that the science says that you don't need to wear a mask unless you're sick and everything, right? And then now, 3 years later, we look back and, like, actually, if you wore masks, that would have helped a lot, right? And we've all sort of gotten to this stage, like, if you need to wear a mask, even you go, take public transport, hospital, okay just wear a mask, right? No biggity. And actually, it's you think about it, like, there are a lot of countries that, like Japan and all that, already were practicing that, like, if you're sick, please wear a mask, right? Was there a need to almost like be so firm that, you don't need to wear a mask now, in spite of the fact that we didn't really know what was happening, Maybe not, if people wanted to be more precautious and all, let them be also, And so for them to admit that there was a mistake, and it's purely a mistake in the messaging, right, if anything, that to me was like, wow, I would not have expected Lawrence Wong and team to admit that as a mistake, Yeah.
I see. Because I know you have very strong thoughts about the mask, lah, right?
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
as in, I think I generally was during that whole period because my wife was pregnant and then after that had the kid and infant and everything. So yeah, generally I was very I think definitely more conservative about the mask wearing stuff, lah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, turns out like the report, it was chaired by Peter Ho, who is the former civil service head. And I mean, so generally, to be honest, like when I read it, I was like, oh shit, I actually think like this deserves credit. And I think as much as we can be critical and all, I think this report deserves credit. The fact that it went to that extent and the fact that it is going to be debated in Parliament is great, like, because I was trying to look for which other countries have also done after action reviews or COVID reports, and it's a bit hard to find. But I did find in the Today article, someone was quoted. I mean, they mentioned that in the UK, apparently the health authority there has appealed against an order by the country's information office to publish its after action review. So basically, they are saying don't release this because there are topics that can be emotionally and politically evocative.
Trigger warning.
So that's where I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting and it is quite substantial. And I think if anyone wants to criticize and just say, oh, you never talk about this, just go read the paper first. The one thing that I did see people point out is that, oh, there's no mention of like the election happening during the pandemic. So I mean, I don't know whether there was a super what was that event called last time? Super spreader event or something. I don't know.
Yeah, clusters.
But I also feel just off the top of my head, I don't know where that would sit under. Because was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing?
They did mention in the timeline of what was happening.
In the timeline they did.
They just mentioned that the elections happened.